There is nothing that rivals the awe, the immensity, the scale of what God's love has to offer and is for us and in us.
I'm going to start with the story of the Apostle Paul, where he was called Saul originally, and then he encountered Jesus, and then his name became Paul. So in those days, it was quite a common practice that your name resembles your faith. It wasn't weird. Okay. If you read throughout the Old Testament as well, there's a couple of times where God changed people's names. Jacob changed to Israel, Abram changed to Abraham, Sarah changed to Sarah, because the meanings are different. So God would name them after their calling, after their purpose. In any case, you know that thing we fear, that instability, that stuff that makes us anxious when our life feels like it's up in the air. We often look for these, when we say to God, I'll change, God, we need like the optimal circumstances. Now, the optimal circumstance for change is instability. Okay. Because during instability, things are going to change. They're either going to change for the better or for the worse. But the nature of instability is to bring change. I'm not saying it's the purpose of it, I'm just saying it's the nature of it. We're going to look a little bit here, Acts 9 from verse 3. Remember, we're talking about Paul. Now, Paul was a guy that was highly schooled within the Jewish religion, taught by the best teacher of his day. Now, he calls himself a Pharisee of Pharisees. He considered himself a pure-blood, thoroughbred Jew. According to his flesh and his inheritance or his heritage, he was as Jewish as you could ever wish to be. He even says that as far as obedience to the law, faultless. Okay. So, some translations say blameless. So he was like committed. Okay. He was also the bagman of the high priests. They would send him out to go kill the other Christians. So he was dedicated to Judaism. Okay. So we're talking about him. As he journeyed, Paul, he came near Damascus, and suddenly a light shone around him from heaven. Then he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Notice that Paul was persecuting the people that followed Jesus. Jesus doesn't respond or doesn't ask him, why are you persecuting my people? He's saying, why are you persecuting me? Him being the head of the body, which is the church, which is you and me. No? And then Paul said, who are you, Lord? Then the Lord said, I'm Jesus whom you are persecuting. It is hard for you to kick against the goads. So, he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what do you want me to do? At least Paul is sharp. He's quite bright. It doesn't take him like a 10-minute discussion here or debate about it. He was riding his horse. You know that saying, get off your high horse? It's exactly what happened here. He was on his horse, he saw a light, he got knocked off of it, and he accepted his new standing. Okay, that was it. It was very quick. Paul's quick like that. Lord, what do you want me to do? Then the Lord said to him, arise and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. And the men who journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no one. Then Saul arose from the ground, and his eyes were opened. And when his eyes were opened, he saw no one. But they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. So if you can't interpret that, he was blind. Okay? He was blind. It's not that there was no one, he just was blind. Okay? And he was 3 days without sight, and neither ate nor drank. Now there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Ananias. And to him the Lord said in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Here I am, Lord. So the Lord said to him, Arise and go to the street called Straight, and inquire at the house of Judas for one called Saul of Tarsus. Behold, he is praying. And in a vision he has seen a man named Ananias coming in and putting his hand on him, so that he may receive his sight. Then Ananias answered, Lord, I've heard from many about this man, how much harm he has done to your saints in Jerusalem. And here he has the authority from the chief priests to bind all who call on your name. But the Lord said to him, Go, for he is a chosen vessel of mine, to bear my name before Gentiles, kings, and the children of Israel. What's written in that verse after that?
For I will make clear to him how much he must suffer and endure for my name's sake.
Okay. It's interesting, huh? It's nice, comforting words. Okay. And then Ananias went his way and entered the house. And laying his hands on him, he said, Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus, who appeared to you on the road as you came, has sent me that you may receive your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit. Immediately there fell from his eyes something like scales, and he received his sight at once. And he arose and was baptized. So when he had received food, he was strengthened. Then Saul spent some days with the disciples at Damascus. You get that? You get the instability and you get the change. Without the event of instability, there would not have been change for Paul. He would have continued because he wouldn't have asked the same questions. He wouldn't have questioned his thought processes and his beliefs. As long as the circumstances stayed the same, so would his thinking process. So we need these interventions of instability in our life. And God designed life that way. Okay, to shake us up every now and then. There's a lady called Missy Edwards. She says a song where it says, where God says, once again I will shake everything that can be shaken. And you know, the only thing that ever stays standing is truth. Truth is unshakable. So the instability is a process or a tool that God uses to bring us a bit closer to realization. Well, call it self-realization as you want, but realization of who we are. What's important, what matters, what we should be pursuing, what is worth our time, what isn't worth our time. It is designed to bring about change within us as people. Some of us are quick, like Paul, to embrace the change. Others are a bit more like Ananias. We want to negotiate and debate and reason first. It's okay, God has all the answers. So it's okay. You see, we must remember that God said to some of these people, come, let's reason together. No? Let's reason together. Not all of us are like Peter that at the drop of a hat leaves our whole lives behind us and just follow this dude that called us. Some of us want to know something. And one is not better than the other. Now there's a statement that Jesus says. He says, listen, the dad goes to his sons. He's got two sons. He goes to the one and says, listen, please go out in the field and do this for me. And this one son says yes. And then he goes to the next one and he says, listen, please go out into the field and do this for me. And he says no. But later, it came that the son who said yes didn't go. And the son who said no did go. And then he says, who did the will of the Father? The one who went. So we put a lot of claim on our initial response, and I don't think it's right. You know, when instability comes, it's natural to have fear and all those things. No? When your life does this for a moment or two, it's natural to feel floating or freaked out or, you know, at a loss. And it's okay to have that initial response. Whatever that may be, whether it may be questioning or reasoning or, like I say, some just accept and move on with it. And in some areas, it's easy for us to accept, and in other areas, we want to talk about it. We're all like that. I've got a lot of areas in my life where I will just hear and do. But then there's some other areas where I need some convincing, and it's fine. Why? Because the intention is relationship, not obedience. No, obedience is like the result of the relationship, but the primary intention is the relationship. Yes? Okay. You can say no as well. You're welcome to believe what you want to believe. I've got the privilege of standing here and saying what I believe. You're welcome to cling to whatever you believe. I'm just saying what I believe works. Okay? So, I always go walking with this stick. For those of you who see me walking, I always have this stick with me. And this morning I was going to go walking without it. And I felt pressed to go walking with it. And I ended up at the gate without it, and I came back, and I went going to fetch it. Okay. Not because, I don't know, I didn't want to go walking with it, but I just felt pressed with it. And this is actually where this whole sermon came from. Because when I walk, I usually play with the stick a bit. And I figured, but this would be much better if I just had a handle on it to prevent it from sliding and slipping. But the thing is, it limits versatility or mobility of the weapon the moment you put a handle on it. Something like a stick. And I'll try and explain it to you in this way, that you can't rotate the stick the same way if there's a handle, because the handle will be a limiting factor on the agility and smoothness of movement. And it's more likely to destabilize the weapon and knock it out of your hand if you start moving it. So the instability, the thing that feels awkward in your hand, is what gives this thing its maximum opportunity for use, or potency in use. And I hope you can see it and understand what I'm saying. But I enjoy stuff like that, so that's why God uses those kind of things to talk to me. Maybe you like fish, and He'll use fish or mountains or whatever. But the thing that I would want comfort in would at the same point be a limit to me when it actually comes to effectively using the thing. And this is what we must remember. Life is the same. We try and cling to these comforts. We try and cling to things that make us feel stable, no? That makes our feet on the ground. And it's the problem is it keeps us there. Do you know what walking is? Have you ever thought about walking, the process of walking, what it actually is? It's the sequence of prevented falls or controlled falls. Okay. Because the moment I walk, I do what? I shift my balance. So I have to put myself out of balance. I have to destabilize myself and then place down another pillar. But I continue this movement or this process. And in this process, I do walking. But it can't exist without continual destabilization. Yes or no? Yes. Yeah. So we really shouldn't be afraid of it. We really shouldn't be afraid of things that are unstable. We should learn to manage it. Manage our responses to it. Manage how we utilize, because instability brings energy, it brings movement energy. It's a natural thing that comes with it. You know, let me use maybe a more closer to home example. You grew up in an unstable home, a lot of instability. And it forced movement in us, didn't it? We just chose bad movement. We chose negative change. Whereas some other people would have chosen positive change. But the instability had to force movement. Death in the family forces change. There's instability all the time. Everything's different. Some people fall because of it, and some people become stronger because of it. Okay, it's instability is gonna be there, and change is gonna come with it. You will not be the same after instability. You will be worse or you will be better. Instability brings movement. Necessary. It's clearly a tool that God uses. When Jesus left, he said to his disciples, listen, preach my word, or make disciples of all the nations, do it in Jerusalem, do it in Judea, do it in Samaria, and do it in all the world. Now you see, eventually he had to call Paul to go to the rest of the world, because the other guys were a bit slow in learning. But he does that sometimes. If you don't believe that God uses jealousy as a tool to get us closer to him, then you should really read your Bible. It says that God extended the gifts that the Jews would not accept to the Gentiles, so that they may become jealous and turn to him. You know, if you ask kids, which one do you want? No? I want sissies. Well, I want Betty's one. You know, they want the one the other one wants. It's like that. No? So, I don't want it because I know I can get it. Until someone else takes it. Then I want it. Because now it's not available anymore. Now I want it. So it's God uses jealousy like that. Okay, so what God did is they were getting cozy in Jerusalem. If you read the beginning of Acts, I mean, they were growing, the church was growing. Peter gave one sermon, 3,000 people came to him, and then it says daily there was added to their number. So most of us have gone to churches where the church stays at like 1,500, 2,000 people for decades. Yeah, he started off with 3,000 and he grew daily. And the culture of the church was such that whoever owned many things would go out and sell it, and then give it to the leaders of the church so they can give it to those who need it. Okay, I'm not even going to go into the events of what happened if you lied in that situation. That's a whole other story. It was quite severe. But anyway, so God sent persecution into Jerusalem to disperse the apostles so that the message could reach Judea, Samaria, and the rest of the world. He destabilized their environment so that the thing can grow. If you plant a seed, what happens to it? It bursts open and the thing grows. The structure of the seed destabilizes and it allows the thing to grow. It's destabilization or instability is such a we have tried to avoid it, but it is such a necessity in our lives to change. Whether it be physical, whether it be emotional, whether it be whatever. We need to learn to use things right. It's a beautiful energy if we embrace it. Failed relationships, loss of jobs, or situations like this COVID thing. I mean, it's destabilizing world economies. Like the entire world's economy is being destabilized right now. And some people will succumb to the destabilization. And some people will profit out of this destabilization. Simply by choosing their approach. Situation out of your control. Response within your control. Embrace instability. Embrace that feeling of not being sure. Embrace the environment when it makes you feel you're not sure. You're not sure what's coming. You're not sure where you stand. You're not sure. Embrace it. But why must I choose to change? And the word there is a Japanese word. The word is called kaizen. Now that word is change in order to improve. I don't change because someone else says I must change. I don't change because the world is telling me to change. I don't change because I'm afraid of something. I change because I want to be better. Instability comes around and it shows me, well, I'm not good enough. And I make the change. Get better. But we're so afraid to admit that we're not good enough because we think we think about ourselves lowly. Now the Bible says don't think of yourself more highly than you ought to. In other words, you should know there's stuff you need to change. Instability sort of just throws it out there for us. It gives us that you know what a catalyst is? Right? Who did not have science at school? Is science still a subject at school? Okay, so a catalyst is this. If you can have two ingredients and put them together and they will react over time. A catalyst is an extra thing I throw in there that causes the reaction to happen immediately. It shortens the space or time frame of the reaction. The reaction would have been the same. But because I add a catalyst, I see it now. We use it often we use it in school. You use it often because your periods are short. So you can't wait 2 hours for the stuff to react. You need to see the reaction now. You know that hiding that your dad would have given you in any case? You know? Just today's cheekiness got it for you. You hear what I'm saying? We have these moments, and that's what instability is. It's a catalyst. Just use it, man. Don't try and wish it away. Don't try and wait for it to go away. Don't do it. Just whenever there's instability, utilize it for optimal growth. That's it. Okay? You can approach instability, and with this I'm closing. You can approach instability with fear or with love. Let's assume we all know we can trust God. Okay, because that's where we start. No? When instability comes, we return back and we go to the foundation, and this foundation doesn't move or shake, so we trust God. Then we enter the instability, because this instability we know is only earthly and temporary, so we know our spiritual world is secure and His word is forever settled in heaven, so we can operate from that place. No. Then we can enter instability in our physical lives and in our emotional spaces, because it's not our whole lives, it's a part of our lives. Okay, so we start there, where we can be grounded spiritually. Please don't ground yourself in this world. When we choose to approach instability with fear, we become protective, insecure, and paranoid, anxious about everything and everyone and the situation. And our creativity and our minds become limited because we go into survival. We go into maintenance mode. And that is not good for moving forward. You don't exit that instability feeling better about yourself. As a matter of fact, it just chips away a little bit out of your self-confidence and out of your self-esteem. When we approach instability with love towards ourselves, we must love everybody around us. But when life becomes unstable, we need to react with love towards ourselves. I'm not saying you must now stop loving other people. I'm just saying, just hear me. Just hear me. I need to see what is exactly happening within my inner space. It's just a parkour person. What do they have that few of us have? Or they've got a high level of what you call spatial awareness. An extremely high level of spatial awareness. They know exactly where the buildings are, where the objects in their space are, what their bodies are capable of in relation to the objects. Yes or no? Who knows what parkour is? Who doesn't know what parkour is? Okay. Parkour is these guys that jump up the buildings and down the buildings and run over the steps and stuff. They look like little monkeys when they do it. They're really like agile. It's actually a big problem. I think it was a big problem in the UK or something when it came to robbers and stuff. The cops couldn't catch them. So it's a bit of an issue. So you actually get schools that present parkour and stuff, teach you how to do it. But they've got great spatial awareness. They know how to utilize their space. And remember, that whole thing only functions in instability. There's constant movement, momentum. No? Okay. So, and they've just learned how to redirect and utilize it to climb up or down buildings equally fast. So, our job is when instability comes to act in a place of love and to go and to assess what's happening inside our inner space, relating to our external. But the important thing to know is not the external. It's to know the internal and the relationship it has with the external. Then we can act in love and take the best steps, make the necessary change. When we act in love, we can think creatively. We can think confidently. We can think forward. That's why I say you have to act in love towards yourself. Don't worry about maintaining everything right there. If you make the right choices in that moment, you will maintain everything, but you will also move forward. Now, for those of us who are concerned about time and are fearful that time is running out for you and all of that, God says in His Word that He's placed eternity in the hearts of man. And I was also like that, where I really feared that it will not be enough time in my life to accomplish what I believe God wants me to do. And then one day God said to me, my children are not bound by time or to time, they are bound to purpose. Time is not of the essence when you walk within the purposes of God. Why? Because God is the master of time. No? He's the creator of time. So when the time comes for something to happen, He says, in its time, I will do it. How? Swiftly. It says, although it seems that it may tarry, it will not be late. For in its time, I will do it swiftly. Joseph went from prison to palace in a day. But he spent years in prison. But he went from nothing to second only to Pharaoh. It says Pharaoh put him in charge over his household. Not just his kingdom, over his private matters. From being a prisoner to answering only to the top dog. And him coming to you for advice. In its time, He will do it swiftly. But what did he do? What did Joseph do? When his brothers sold him into slavery, he remained obedient. He remained diligent. He made the best of every situation. By the way, the people his brothers sold him to was his cousins. Okay, so he wasn't just betrayed by his brothers. His cousins bought him and sold him off to the Egyptians. Those kids was his grandfather's brother's bloodline. Isaac and Ishmael. Okay. So it's 2 generations back. So they probably saw each other every now and then. But so in any case, these guys sold him off. He got there, he got placed into a guy's house, he performed diligently. Then the guy's wife got into him and he tuned it to duck and she accused him of rape and he ended up in prison. In prison, he remained so diligent that the guard of the prison made him head of the prison. He could have been miserable, he could have said it's unfair, he could have said a lot of things. But he remained faithful, diligent, believing in what he believed God said about him. So, he grew in what they say in honor amongst men. Prison in Egypt was not like prison today, people. It was not Lani like it is today. Okay. Prison in those days were those dark holes where they chucked people in. But he remained faithful. Became like the advisor in prison. Then the king's servants came to him. Do you know the story? The cupbearer and the guy that carries the bread ended up in prison, and he interpreted their dreams for them, and the dreams came to pass. And then they forgot about Joseph. You would think that when someone tells you your dream and it comes to pass, that you would tell the guy that you serve him, because the cupbearer was not just a cupbearer. He had quite a close relationship with the king. One of the king's most trusted servants. Okay, because he had to taste the drink, make sure it's not poisoned. So the king trusted him a lot. He could at any point in time have said to Pharaoh, you know what, I had this dream and this guy interpreted this dream for me and I think it would be an asset here. He could have done it, but he forgot about it. We get offended if we do something nice to someone and they don't say thank you. Never mind leave us in prison for another 2 years. Joseph didn't get offended. At least it's not written that he got offended. And whatever happened didn't turn his heart. He simply continued doing what he knew would be best for the moment. And then he gets released and tells the king or the Pharaoh what he dreamt, what the Pharaoh dreamt, and interprets it for him, and then becomes 2IC as they call it. And that saved his whole family and blah, 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 blah. But instability was at the cause of every change. It was the catalyst that led to each next step in Joseph's life. And his response to it is what caused him to end up where he ended up. You never read about Joseph hating his brothers. You hear that he was a cocky little teenager tuning his bits about how they're going to bow down to him. You read that. And that was one. And then he told the dad that the dad will bow down to him. Because this is what he saw in his vision. It's a bit cocky. And some things you keep to yourself. So I would not go tell my dad that I had this vision where he will bow down to me one day. I will not go do that. Okay, it's maybe a cultural thing, I don't know. But in any case, but he was a forgiving person and a believing person. I can tell you, whatever you've gone through in life, there's someone that you can look at in Scripture that have endured the same or worse. They came out on top because they trusted God and they changed for the better. There are a number of people that has made, and I don't like classifying success as finance because I think that's cheapening success. I think it makes success a shallow thing, where success is actually a really deep thing. But if you look at people like Denzel Washington or so, and it's ex-aeronautic, Robert Downey Jr., ex-drug addict. Do you know who Tim Allen is? Home Improvements, Last Man Standing, ex-drug dealer. Did a number of years in prison for it. But he didn't stay that. He became someone else. Use those moments, those defining moments, and become something else. The opportunity for change never, almost never, feels comfortable. Complacency feels comfortable. And the one word is, procrastination, which I tie hand in hand with complacent. Complacent people procrastinate. Okay. So, or if you procrastinate, you're probably complacent in that area. Let me put it that way. Procrastination is the natural assassin of opportunity. In closing, and I know I'm allowed 3 closes as a preacher, so. But you owe it to yourself to wake up better tomorrow morning than what you woke up today. You owe it to yourself to walk out of here a much more powerful person than you walked in here. You owe it to yourself. Don't rob yourself by getting caught up with nonsense.